them if they wanted to sit in, because it's the same message, same conversations that have happened already with Yorktown and Hampton residents. And next week, another little neighborhood discussion with our Newport residents. So why these meetings? I just had a feeling when I was on vacation back in mid-June. I just said, we're seeing X number of people coming to town hall. Fairly consistent. I never know how many may watch it on TV, but it's got a number. And then I have a coffee in here that I hold, and I may get 12, 15, and that's like first Friday of the month. And then I've continued since the pandemic to hold a Zoom call where I may get 8, 10, 12 people on that. They're all an attempt of, how are you doing? What's going on? What questions do you have? What can I share? And I just said, some of those numbers aren't real good, so let me just try something different. Some people don't want to step into a town hall meeting and raise their hand or ask a question. But if I get into smaller groups, neighborhoods perhaps, they would. And it was magical. When I got together with that first Yorktown residents, I thought, well, who might come? Is it going to be like one of my other groups? But how many will be coming? And it ended up filling a lounge, plus a lounge, and wow. Hampton filled the entire second floor lounge, every chair. I expected, as you did, thank you for a good turnout here. And we're going to move the Newport neighborhood meeting into the Chesapeake room, because I learned my lesson. Don't squeeze people here when we have bigger space. Now, what's the future of this? We'll see how today goes, but if you enjoy it, whatever, I'm just suggesting maybe this becomes a supplemental communication opportunity. Those who want to come to town hall and we have the report and it's more scripted and it's one way, come and enjoy the town hall because that's a lot of facts. This type of venue could be used for just what's on your mind and just talking back and forth. And yeah, today there happens to be a couple of things I can spend a little more time on with you and give you insight on, but that's the thought. So let's see how this today goes, how next week goes, but maybe we do these 3 times a year. And if that would work, I'll accept your suggestions. I just want you to feel I'm going to be listening. There's some wonderful things that came out of the first 2 meetings that prompted discussion among management already and some things we could change. I'm sure it'll happen today as well. So does that fair enough, setting the ground? Understanding history of town hall meetings. Yes, I've done some other neighborhood things in the past, and I'm just now trying something a little different, see if it would have some meaning. Okay? So with that being said, I'm guiding you because I know with this group, if I don't give you some guidance, we'll be all over the place. But I'm just saying the first thing that I'm interested in is just listening to questions you have, topics you want that are different than these 2, because I think these 2 are going to be natural for you because these came up at the other meetings. So I'm just saying, okay, they came up before, chances are you're going to, and I put some slides together for you, which the previous groups never saw. So just to make the conversation a little bit more meaningful, and we're in this room where I can do that. So let's just start with number 1, topics of interest. Who's first? Who's got something you want to ask or talk about?
Wow.
Dave.
Yes, sir. Behind the even 200 units in the Gloucester cottages, we have a fence that separates us from the houses on Harkinsville Road.
Mm-hmm.
Along those fences is a lot of dead wood brush that needs to be cleaned up. They plus mulch on it in the spring, but as far as cleaning it up during the regular year, that's the commons area. Is that the responsibility of Davies, or are we supposed to go out to the commons?
First of all, it's Chesapeake property, so everyone's hearing what he's talking about. Behind the 200 cottages, a fence row, how do we maintain that area? That's the topic. Everyone with us? So my first response, Dave, is it's our property. If it's on our side of the fence, it's us. We have to take care of it. What you need to hear is that with Davey Landscaping, who has our landscaping contract this year, it starts out with an agreement. Here's the scope of services. And when that contract was written a couple years ago, and Keith was with us at the time, negotiated that. It did this scope of services. And that's what we've been paying for. Anything additional beyond that scope, they can charge by the hour, okay? As you could imagine, there are a lot of things that we've missed in that scope. Some areas, like you're referring to, would be an example. Another would be, why don't we demulch before we mulch? Because we've allowed the mulch to get too deep. Well, we're changing the scope, and as we speak, Andy is putting out bids for next year. Davey is invited, they can bid. He has 2 other vendors that are going to bid. At this point, we've not included James River. They were here before. They did an okay job. But we would like to find a landscaper who also can complementary take care of the irrigation system. Under James River, we had 2 different contracts, an irrigation and another one that never worked together. With Davey, at least it's the same company, trying to get them coordinated. So let me just acknowledge, number one, I'm giving you a broader picture of landscaping, the fact that we're bidding out, anticipate we're adding to the scope. The area that you're referring to, I'm going to make a note of it, or Paula, are you taking notes? Paula's got it, because these are little comments that I can say, Andy, do we have any work going on? Can we get them, can we look at that area? And he's got a whole list of areas to look at this fall.
Could it not be done in-house with just a rake and putting it in a trash can?
Well,
Not put it out the door?
so the question is this. So he's now asking, what is our current bandwidth? We've been working on, and Andy's trying to solidify, is Nate, one of our maintenance techs, at a junior level enough where we should just let him take a rake and go do areas outside? Should we put him on that? Do we take one of our maintenance techs away from doing work orders? Okay? And we could already talk about our work orders being timely. And Mary, we can talk about, concerns you've had, I think I read. Very alarming to me. I want us work orders to be right. So yes, Dave, on one hand theory, it could be. But I also have to say to you, we're in the midst right now of still adding another person, maybe 2, in maintenance to get fully staffed. So let us work on how we accomplish it. I personally would like to see Nate have majority of his time being a grounds assistant.
I would agree to that.
And I already won him out on that golf cart picking up trash along the front. I set the expectation, and it's sometimes hit, sometimes missed. Drive the front. I want him to drive all along Harpersville. I want him to come in, just pick up stuff. I don't care whether it's art, just pick it up. And then walk around and see if you see any limbs. And let's take care of some of the grass between cracks in the pavement. And let's take a few care. We have that, but then the question is, do we have the bandwidth to pull it out of our maintenance team, and are we going to suffer with work orders?
For many years, I have let them know that I don't like to do outdoor work around my cottage. And as a result, the weeds grow all around. Who's responsible for pulling those weeds?
I think everyone hears her question. Outside her cottage, and some of you may enjoy and have a green thumb, and some of you not. And I could go around this room, and I got around 40 different opinions. If I touch somebody's, we're going to hear about it endlessly because we just tore out their pride and joy. And somebody else is like, please take out the weeds. And they are weeds, and they're not a preferred flower. So, Kay, my opinion is we need to provide proper landscaping around your homes and keep it reasonably maintained. May not be perfection. We're not going to get out there maybe every week, because this last 6 weeks, I can't tell you how many weeds I've been pulling out of my beds and garden at home.
Stuff taller than I am out there.
Yeah.
So
And if it's not preferred landscaping, we'd like to get rid of it. Okay, want to get rid of it. So I think that's an area that we have to look at. And Paul, just make a note. I think as we look at the scope of landscaping, the contract says they will mow this many times. They will come here and do this number of different treatments, et cetera, et cetera. We may have to be specific to say, what can we afford? Can we afford them to come out every 2 weeks and peruse the grounds for weeds? I don't know. Is that reasonable? Maybe we have to do it on a month. We just got to find out what it costs us, costs you, and can we work it in? If not, I go back to, can we have Nate be carved out to do enough of it to help with some of the weeds? Okay? I'm going to go there. I'm going to come right up through the rows. I'll start with Jess and then Carol and Belle. Go ahead, Jess.
With Andy out sick, we didn't have anybody at our buildings and grounds committee meeting last week. What do we do to get the areas covered that we were concerned about?
Yeah. Andy was out on COVID, and we wanted him to get well. I am sorry that no one was there. James Helbig should have been there. Okay.
Get in touch with James, I had no luck.
Okay. I apologize. Had I known, I would have gotten there myself.
I called your office.
If you called me on Monday, when was your meeting?
Monday.
I was in Michigan. You're right. You got no answer. So I cannot get there on the moment when I'm a couple hours away. But from a standpoint of, yes, I would expect and want James to be there. He is the assistant to Andy. And we're really, there's a sort of a new march right now going on within maintenance and buildings and grounds.
James's number is not in the team listing.
Okay. And again, from that, don't hesitate, whether it's Paula, whether it's the concierge, they can always reach him via radio.
Yeah.
And a radio call would say, James, need you at the Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting. I know I can hear Paula's voice on the radio right now saying that.
Guys, you're late for a meeting.
Yeah. So thank you. I'm sorry they weren't there. Carol, your question.
Landscaping.
Okay.
Okay, across from us, there's tall trees, along the fence there with
Yeah.
property on the other side. I know 6 or 7 trees were planted, 3 of them are totally dead.
Mhm.
And the large trees are dying.
Forgive me.
Are there any plans for those?
It's the landscaper.
His ears are burning.
Yeah, his ears are burning. Okay. So,
It's not a very
yeah.
good view to look out your window and see all
So
dead trees.
what we're referring to, so if you go down on the left entry into Gloucester, you've got 3 homes, and then you've got the tree line that wraps around to the funny farm. Okay, so when you go from that point back, just some history. I know we have some newer residents to understand. Our campus is lovely in so many ways, and on one hand, we're 55 years old, and there's 55-year-old trees still on campus plus. And then there's some things that were probably planted right around, well, could have been 1969. A lot of things were planted in 2000. And you can go all over campus at different points, and there's some areas that are just overgrown that we have to cyclically replace. And then there's other areas we just got to figure out how to preserve them. So what she's referring to is an area where we at first were trying to appease some residents, particularly those living right there, to say, are they too big? And we had some big arborvitaes removed and some smaller ones put in. And then we had the opposite concern. In one area, do we want to try to fill in the fence line better? And there is some planting of trees. I think what we first have to do is anything that didn't make it through a pretty tough drought. I lost, I think, 4 plants at my house, bushes and trees, because I didn't water them timely enough. We were away for a bit. But we had a really harsh June, early July, and that killed some things. So we got to just respect that and realize there's some things we have to replace. So that, I think, absolutely. The second part, I think your question is there any other fill-in needed? If we replace those, is it better? Give me your opinion.
Yeah, and that fence along there that across from Jane
Yeah.
and myself, there was ivy or something growing on that fence, which helped hide the view behind it. I mean, there's one property there that's kind of
Yeah.
a mess.
Yeah.
But anyway, it helped, but then that was cut, so it didn't.
Yeah. So it could have been an example where the landscaper de-weeded something. I wish they would have come over behind Listinger's house and did his. Leave that one alone. So I think it's an area for us to look at. I think we just have to decide what is a plan to try to create along any of the perimeters of our property, we got to moderate between overgrown and enough for privacy. And there's a lot of yards around 40 acres. But I hear your thoughts. I'm going to hit Bell, then I'm going to come back to you. Go ahead, Bell. You had one?
With the mulching, they come with those big pipes and go in between what they can hit, but it is not a good thing. They all have flowers. I mean, between the brushes, this is fine, but with the flowers, we have, every year, we have a bin filled with mulch, and when our flowers ready to get some mulch on the top of things, we'll do it ourselves. But I don't know how long we can do it. But this mulching with those big holes is no good.
Yeah. So make sure
Touch it up with the
everyone's hearing, and I'm seeing it more and more, where our mulch
time.
installation is happening by a crew, whether it's Davy or a subcontractor. They've got this big truck filled with mulch, and then they've got this blower apparatus that blows it through a hose, and that's how they walk around to try to do it. Now, on one hand, if the person doing it had some care, he could limit and minimize some around flowers. Okay? When you think about it, it's probably, if I'm going to try to evenly broadcast and I'm controlling this, it's a lot better than just somebody getting in a wheelbarrow and dumping it sporadically and it not being as even. So I think they have the potential of doing it right, and I don't think we're probably going to go back. I would bet that the 3 companies that would be bidding this next year, they're probably always going to look at that more efficient way. So we just have to talk with them, and maybe we have to put some flags out. Maybe we come up with an approach to say any resident has an area that you want treated differently with mulch, put 2 yellow flags between that span. You know, there's some possibilities. So let's just hang on to that one, because I think there's some ways we could help you.
And then the other thing with the sprinkler system.
Mm-hmm.
When they started the new sprinkler system, never came the water on our baits. That was always on the road. I told that guy when I saw him, I said, can that not coordinate it that the water goes to the baits?
Mm-hmm.
And since then, we have no water at all. The greenery, the shops, I have to take those to
Okay.
myself.
Okay. So again, if there's an irrigation miss, and Paula's going to write that one down, behind the patio homes, we need to look at that. We paid for and contracted for the back of your homes to be reset with irrigation. And they got their way through that. It shouldn't have been a zone turned off.
In front of the house.
Yeah, okay, all right.
And then the other thing, when they come with spraying the cottages with this poison stuff, what do you call it?
Either a pest,
Clean that
herbicide, yeah,
The bleach, yeah.
okay.
They always come and the whole flower beds is gone because they're hitting the flowers. The flowers have to be covered when they come with those spray things. I have let the spray this year, but the years before I not even, but it was
So you're talking about the power washing of the
power
structure.
washing. Yeah,
All right,
that was the word
yeah.
I was looking for. This is not perfect for us here.
Yeah.
I mean, it has to be done, but not with those sprayers that it goes all over and the flowers getting all killed.
Yeah. And so I don't have an immediate answer to that. I know that the power washing that happened on the main buildings, we used, it was different this year because we were washing down the bricks and acid, et cetera. Out at your cottages, what you're sharing with me is they were using some type of a bleach in the water? Okay.
You can smell it.
And I've done it at home, and I guess the reason of doing it is because on siding, where we could have mildew, it happens in my home. Now, I know when I bleach my house, because I hook up that container to my hose and I bleach the sides to get it, you have to. And the only thing that I can do afterwards is I don't cover all my plants. So my hostas, et cetera, are at risk, and I try to go back and just rinse them off with fresh water.
This is the key, it has to be done some.
Yeah. And that's something that maybe we have to look at, is have a 2-part process. They can do the bleaching and trying to get any green off the building, but then come back and do a fresh rinse of significance. I don't know what that means, but, so,
But Ted could
We got it.
still do it. He did it on the
Yeah.
letter himself,
yeah.
but not
We
every-
want to be consistent in doing it, so, great point there. All right, go back, yes.
Retta Wilson, I apologize.
Yes, Ms. Wilson.
I'm trying, but, I wrote Mr. Estes maybe a month ago about those dead little arborvitae, and I'm talking about the 4 small ones that maybe were planted where they used to be big ones, I don't know about that. And, I told him that in the city of Norfolk, where we just moved from, the city makes an agreement with the homeowners, and this happened years ago, so that we have beautiful, uniform city trees all down the block, that the homeowner would water thoroughly, like 3 hours once a week if it did not rain. And I volunteered to do that. Now, we live at 301 down on the other side of the Steeples. I have a 75-foot hose. I have not pulled it out to see if it would reach that far, but if it would, I would be glad to take on one, or if the hose would reach, all 4 of those little trees. And the other issue was, we have a lot of drought, and it's getting worse with climate change, so don't plant those trees until October. Let them look bad until they can be safely replaced and
Yeah.
they're over, and then they're more likely to live.
Yeah. Well, one, I thank you for your opportunity of offering to help water, and I know there's others in this room that did help water some of the trees that did get it, and some made them and were okay, and a couple did not. I guess what I'm just processing is, one, yes, wherever we can help, we want to. I still have to say to my team, we put new plants in the ground, regardless of the season, you gotta follow up. And that's been a miss.
Yeah.
So I hear the spirit of what you're saying. Thank you for the offer. But if we're putting things in, and again, our preference would be the fall. Sometimes do we take a chance? We do. We planted some things in the spring because I wanted, I respected that you looked at something pretty, the people looking in the back of the Gloucester Commons from last November through March, it was a mess. And my motivation was, let's try to get something back as best we can, even if we don't know it's going to make it. And that was a risk. And we got caught by pretty tough July. Okay? All right, so I think I hit those questions. I'll come over. Mary, I'll hit right down there. Mary.
Staying with the landscaping on that, behind my place, behind the sunroom, they took down maybe 2 or 3 years ago trees that were too close to the house and all that, but they did not get down and take the roots out of it. They landscaped it nicely, but it just kept growing back so fast, I couldn't even keep up with it, and now I just have to quit, and it's totally overgrown.
Is it crepe myrtles or what is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love them roots.
That is
Yeah.
ivy. I can't get in there and take it out
Yeah.
fast enough.
Yeah.
So I
Okay.
just had to leave it alone.
Yeah.
So it needs attention that
Yeah.
I can't give it.
Okay. We've got, Paul is so noted. Thank you. Mr. Robinson, go ahead.
Double barrel.
Okay.
Sprinkler system first. The water coming out of the ground, it's got iron. And you go look at my driveway, it looks like dirt or rust and you can see it. But my biggest concern is, when the sprinklers come on, it sprays it on one of my automobiles. When that stuff gets on there, you got to polish it to get it off. I went to the guys out there last year, and I said, please don't turn these sprinkler systems on where it hits my concrete. I will take care of watering the grass. That worked. But apparently that guy's gone somewhere, because now I can't find one that can speak the English long enough to talk to
Yeah.
get it done now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this iron stuff is bad news for the finish on the automobile.
Yeah.
Bad enough on the drive.
Yeah.
Now, next.
Can I just, the possibility there, and the gentleman who controls all the irrigation, his first name is Brooks, and he speaks English very well. And he is the person who can immediately change anything. So that's the request we have to put in. We have an irrigation, and if it means that it's changing the direction of a sprinkler head, now the tough part of it is wind. We may get it directed properly, but that wind comes along and still pushes that mist over concrete or miss back into your car, it's a pickle to deal with.
I understand that, but my solution would be, don't let the sprinklers hit the concrete or my automobile. Cut 'em
Agreed.
off.
Yeah.
I will water them.
Yeah. Well, but if we, and we may be able to, but then again, you can appreciate that if we're giving an irrigation contractor, here's 39 cottages, I want these heads turned off, these on, these head, we will have chaos. What we need to do is to work with them to make sure that they're not directionally onto any cement. That's the number one. That's always the focus. Make sure it's hitting the grass area. So I want to do that. I'm going to hit one more question over here, then Brian, I'll come to you. Get your second point though. Yet a second one.
Nutgrass. Now, you know what nutgrass is?
If it's the stuff that's in mine, I didn't use the word crap, but if it's the stuff in my yard right now, I think I know exactly what it is.
When the new guy came, first came, I called him. For 5 years I've been calling people. And so what's the guy's name now? Andy.
Mm-hmm.
I explained it. He said, I'll be right over. He came over. We talked about it, the nutgrass. And he said, I'm going to go right now and I'm going to call somebody and I'll call you back. And he called me back in an hour. And he said, Mr. Robinson, I've got the guy and he's coming to take care of it. Well, that was over 4 weeks ago now. Maybe I don't know where he's going and what he's going to do. But I had a nephew that came to see us back in the summer. And he pulled in the yard and he said, Uncle Harry, as long as I've lived, I've never seen your yard look as bad as it does. I said, what are you talking about? He said, it's grass. And I said, I know, it's nut grass. And I said, it's taken over the whole yard. It started at the street now and coming towards the house. It's been going from the house to the street. They'll cut the grass. And in 3 days, the nut grass is 6 or 7 inches high, and the other grass hasn't even started to grow yet.
Yeah, yeah.
And it is a real pain, and it's,
That's what I've been mowing for myself for the last 3 months. Ever since that drought hit, I got the nut, whatever. I know you didn't, but we were saying is, if there's a way for us to do a reasonable way to control it and keep the right grass growing, we'll put that back to our landscaper because they have to be the expert. And is it going to mean some of these areas, do we have to rip out yards and plant new? I don't know. But here's where my caution to you is. Right now, if I would respond to every single landscaping issue here, I could quickly be adding $100,000 and then $200,000 to our annual budget. Okay? That means there's another 1% increase to you. Not just 3% or 4% it might be, it could be 5 or 6%. We have to work within our means. Okay, it's just no different than a home budget. It's not just dollars that I can magically, what, you want me to lay off half the dining crew and then put it into landscaping? I can't, no, can't do that. And if you want me to lay off the dishwashers and eat off the paper, no, can't do that because this is a managed budget and we pay $186,000, $190,000 already for just maintenance. What I have to be honest with you is when I say maintenance, that's them mowing the grass and doing the things that we've seen, but the problem is we haven't increased the scope of the contract to take care of the finer things that you're asking for. I know it's how you kept your own home. And Andy and I are inching, and right now I have put in the budget, which I have to submit by tomorrow afternoon. And I'm telling you right now, it looks like we're going to have a $32 million expense and revenue budget next year. And I'm not predicting your rate increase yet because that's a board directive. But to make this work, I put money in for the landscaping. Understand the consequences. Okay? I'm putting the money in to take care of some landscaping next year. Far beyond. We've done other things. Andy just negotiated a new waste management agreement with our current company. And you know, we've all been on the rocky road with waste management. During the pandemic, they were terrible. They've gotten back to better. But by us renegotiating and working with them, and we challenged them with Republic, which is the only other choice we have, we've lowered that one by $20,000 a year. All right, fine, let's put that $20,000 in landscaping. We save some money. But it's tough for us to find another $80,000 or $90,000 to save to take care of some of the detail you're asking for. But we're going to try. Okay, go over here, and then I promise you, I'm going to go here, there, there. Roger.
I don't have the camera located, so you know that for starters. A couple things. Sometimes we see understand why the staff doesn't see that. For instance, we had a leaking from the irrigation over in Smithfield for 6 weeks. I said,
Yeah.
why didn't someone fix that? Because the water's running down the street, you know?
Yeah.
I told Andy about it, well, he was there 2 days later and they fixed it.
Yeah.
So why couldn't somebody else see that and fix it?
Yeah.
Another thing too, we come in the front door here, and those pillars on the bottom are dirty and float spotted. Why can't somebody go out there with the hose and wash it down just once a week, so it looks better?
Yeah.
And the third thing was, how long do you let a work order sit before you follow up? I had some work orders that nothing ever happened, and I said, well, shall I do it again or just give up? You know, I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
It's a minor one, it's a
Yeah.
down the eaves of the fog, and when it rains, it's a waterfall.
Yeah.
The house that washes the mulch out, but
Okay. Let me just, if I can, for a couple minutes here, because I think it's going to hit a couple of your questions. Going to focus first on the maintenance team. Maintenance, we had an individual retire last fall when Keith left us. We're searching throughout the next months, looking for the quality candidate. Had our recruiter help us try to bring the right candidates in. I looked at, can't tell you how many resumes, wasn't really comfortable. James Helbig was testing him to see what he could step up and do. And finally in the spring, I get Andy Estes' resume. If you haven't met Andy, he's the gentleman we hired. His grandmother lived here, his mother lived here. He spent a career with Marriott, did some of the best engineering, building work there, and dealt with other areas. And he's a class individual, and he's responsive. What Andy and I are trying to do now is to shake and change a culture within that department. We fired 2 people already. There could be others yet to be changed out. We're expecting accountability, and we want them to see things. There's now a whole new task of, why isn't that work order there? We had a gentleman that we fired 2 weeks ago because he said he closed out a work order because he completed it. He falsified it. He's no longer with us. Okay? I'm sorry that happened. There's no excuse for it other than it's my responsibility to hire quality people and to ensure it works. And we're just changing it up a little bit. And we brought in Isaac as a second shift team member. I think it's very good. And right now, what Andy and I are doing, and home office has supported me on this, we're flipping the department. In the past in maintenance, we've hired some decent people with fairly low technical levels. Okay? And our men make anywhere from $18 to $25 an hour. Okay? And we're probably getting what we pay for, because if we put out there thinking $25 hires a great person out in the Culpeper or out at Glebe, our sister communities, yeah, they can get a great maintenance person there. Someone coming off the farm, whatever, they'll pay it. We can't. We're competing against the shipyard. So we're flipping things. Yeah, it's going to be hitting the budget, but we're now turning it upside down, and we're looking for 4 or 5 maintenance techs that we're going to pay $28 an hour. And then we're going to only have 2 people at the entry level. So you're going to see some change here, because you're paying for a higher competence level that they can do the work. Now, we do have some savings, because in the past there was a culture here of, well, if our guys can't do it, outsource it. We bring this technical level in, we won't have to outsource. This morning, Andy and I were talking about a gentleman that we're probably going to bring him on part-time. He had his own electrical business, full journeyman, full electrician, did that for 20 years. The last few years, he's done more high or low voltage and high-tech wiring and systems, but he's a master electrician. He wants to come work for us a couple evenings a week and Saturdays. We're going to take it. And if we can hire somebody like that to help an electrician to keep we're having to pay $150, $200 an hour if we bring an outside electrician in. Why not be paying $30 or $35 to this man who's got incredible experience and he has the caliber? What do I want? I want, and I know this is being filmed, but I don't think staff will see it, but I'm saying it to you candidly, we have some really great superstars. When I look at Sam Abid and what Sam gets in his customer response and the work orders he does, okay, now, do you understand when I'm telling you that I want 5 Sams? And we're going to put money in there, and Sam heard it from me. I said, Sam, if you see on the ad that we're now going to be paying $27 or $28 an hour, you will be part of that. Okay, so I appreciate you're hearing this, but we're changing, and Andy is guiding it. I'm giving him full support, and yes, we are saving some money. We're going to balance, because if we can reduce maintenance by outside parties, it's a significant line item in his budget. It's okay to put more into wages.
I was more impressed because he was standing there with the guy doing the maintenance, making sure it got
Yeah.
done.
See, and Andy's also holding training. We're trying to bring even the guys that, there's one of them, maybe two, that we might be able to grow them into this technician 2 level. Okay, but they have to earn it. So I'm sharing with you that I am apologizing because you pay for and deserve consistency. But I'm being realistic as a family member, telling you we still ebb and flow. We ebb and flow when people retire. We ebb and flow when somebody bad does something stupid, like falsifying a work order. And then we have to respond to that. And we can't respond quickly because there's not just another person there. We're competing against really tough odds hiring quality people when it comes to maintenance in this area. All right, let me go to another department real quick, and then I'm going to hit these questions. The other department is housekeeping and projects, because the housemen are the ones that can go out and spray off things. Just spiffy up the outside. We stood by Myron Barnes. He was a great man. He was one of our housemen. He loved the Chesapeake. And we stood by him and through his cancer journey and to his death. We could have filled his job, and it didn't. Okay, and you could fault me for that, but I think it was the right thing because there was a good prognosis that he might return. Given his age, in his 50s, everything, but he didn't. He died. Now we're recouping. We're going to hire him back. We're going to hire and replace him. My apology to you because we missed some things. He cared about the place and he would check on things and et cetera, but that's one thing. So we're backfilling now. We're going to get the 4 people back up where they need to be. In the last year, we've hired April, who's been a wonderful painter. And if you've seen her go around the campus, the painting, because we paid for a specialist. So we're building some things. So, you know, I'm happy that Sam's doing a great job. I know that April's doing a great job. We're going to build, and Andy's leading that pathway. Okay, so I just stand with that. So when I know Mary, if I see in her We Care Connect or somebody about us missing things and work orders sitting, call Andy, call me. We'll kick it in. And I don't want to have to be managing that for much longer, but the systems are starting to now do it. And we're holding, it's not Sheila responsible for work orders, because Sheila's another winner. She's a great gal in that maintenance team, but James Helbig is now the manager issuing and assuring work order completion. He's accountable.
How are those work orders, no acknowledgement? I think that hurts us more than
Absolutely.
anything.
Mary, I absolutely agree. What you just said, I'll repeat it. I've just said to him, and Andy understands that this is probably the one area that's a non-negotiable with me. Why can't we respond to people to let them know if we're going to be delayed or if there's specifically some other reason, a part, or whatever? Communicate it. And I expect something in your home, if you've given us permission when you're away to fix something, that when you come back, you know what was done. Okay, that's simple. So if that doesn't change in the next month or so, my culture issue, I have bigger changes to make. But those are minimal expectations. So Mary, I apologize when that's not, or when I hear that a work order is set, be a squeaky wheel. We'll get it, we'll get caught up. But again, we're putting some differences in. It wasn't correct for the last 6 months when Sheila was monitoring work orders when she didn't have the empowerment on the guys, where James is the person who should be. So
The only way
those
to check a work order is you put one in, you go on the computer, and you check your work orders.
Yeah.
And it'll tell you if it's pending or canceled or whatever. Otherwise, we get no feedback.
Yeah, and you need that feedback. And what Dave's describing is, yes, some of you do direct enter through WorksHub your work orders. Some of you may call the concierge. That's okay. Some of you may put it through an email through Uniguest Touchtown. So you have 3 ways you can enter an email, enter a work order. I want them all to be reliable. Yes, your device of going directly to it, you're seeing a status. If you don't want to do that, we at least need to be communicating to you so you know the status. And the other thing I want to say is this, a shakeup in that Andy and the team are now realizing we're setting up a new, different PAR level. PAR level is the number of inventory. We need to have a par level of 6 microwaves in the building. We need to have a par level of 6 relay switches for washers and dryers. We need a par level of 12 kitchen faucets. We're producing now some inventory because it's silly for us to make you wait for a week or two, and one by one, we're running over or getting a delivery from Lowe's. And he shook that up real quick. And you're also going to see something happen out back, and that is the garage is going to get emptied and reorganized. And that's something that we put in place 2 weeks ago, and they have a plan, and now we're waiting to see it done. So inventory, technician 2, more Sam's, filling back in for Myron and some good people we lost. That department's going to come around. The laundry folks are rock solid. Security is doing pretty decent. Ed's a good guy, and he's doing some good things in security. So it's coming around, but these are all Andy's responsibilities that I'm trying to help be supportive. Okay? Thank you for listening to that. Let me come back over. Brian, I think I was over to you next, sir.
Oh, yeah, I was just gonna say, I haven't had any problem with the landscape folks. And I think it depends on what crew is on. But they were out there on hands and knees pulling weeds out.
Yeah.
There was another guy who went and trimmed all the bushes
Yeah.
and trees and so on. And as far as those sprinkler heads are concerned, if you get up and watch those sprinklers operating, it's easy to just reach down and turn the head.
Yeah.
And away from your car or the driveway, so just in case you can't get anybody else to help.
Yeah. But I don't want someone who's not comfortable doing it, but I appreciate your comments, and they're supportive. One other thing I'm going to say that I think some of you will recognize, we brought on this year another person who helped us first in Gloucester Commons and now around campus. His name's James Little. He has a small little company called Nature's Best Landscaping. And some of you have commented where you've seen him out there, and he's had 1 or 2 helpers, and he works hard. And he's quality, and he's a good guy. He could be one of the 3 to present a proposal. But for any of you who've been a part of business, you can imagine, and I'm seeing a businessman, and I'm trying to be fatherly to this young man, saying, I don't want him to bite off more than he can chew. We're trying to figure out how we could progress him. I'm trying to be realistic about what capital investment he would need to make, and I don't want to set him up for a future failure if he doesn't succeed here. But both Andy and I are very pleased with his work and pleased with his work ethic. And can he duplicate that? And could he have that personal attention to some of the weeds and some of the things you've mentioned about mulching? He might. It may be something to say that rather than having this big 800-pound gorilla doing the landscaping, to have somebody who has an absolute vested interest. And that's possible. So I'm just letting you into that knowledge that we may have an 800-pound gorilla building, a 600-pound gorilla, and a 100-pound, if I forgive my analogies. But we're trying to get the best solution to hit some of these landscaping issues you presented. Okay? All right. I'm gonna go here and then back this way. So I'll start up here and I'm gonna go right back here. Go ahead.
Somebody has to come to our cottage, please, and check out the inside. We lived there for 14 years. We have 1 room painted on the company, 1 room on our own. But our whole cottage, the ceiling all break up, the woodwork has to be painted, but it has to be prepped before it gets painted.
And I don't know if we had already visited with you and did some work. And again, we are close to that 10-year mark. We may be a little off with, we call it a...
4 years off in our case.
Okay, and we were. When I came here in 2017, there had been no back maintenance on a 10-year refresh. I put that policy in place with the goal of us getting caught up, and with the goal of putting about $75,000 a year into the budget, with us hoping to get about 10 homes a year done to get caught up. Okay, and it was a process. We made good progress, and we're close to that 10-year mark. Not there, but then we also have the challenge of when we come to you saying, "What do you want done?" Because we're offering painting and flooring. Now, if there's a microwave bad or a light fixture, or whatever, that should be taken care of, period. Yeah. But it's that. Now, the challenge is, for many of you and many residents, that I don't need that done. You know, I need this room done. I want this room. I want my woodwork done
You know
right.
what irks us the most? People live 2-3 years in a cottage or in an apartment, and then when somebody else comes in, they wanna have this, and this, and you're taking care of those things. We lived 14 years here, and they didn't say a thing. Like I said, one room is done from the company.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's probably what we negotiate, but we'll come back and revisit with you to help. But that's called the refresh. But we do ask people, what do you want done? And if you want to relocate, we'll take care of the whole thing. Sometimes people have said, I don't want to relocate. So we've taken care of this room or whatever. But we want to take care of our long-term residents.
When we make arrangements, we can adjust to things.
Yeah,
But not, don't hear nothing
Okay.
at all. One room in 14 years is not enough for us.
yeah, okay.
Let me
Carol.
clarify that.
Yeah.
You say 10 years?
10 years. That's the goal. And I say goal, Mary, because when I came here, I had some residents at 20 years, 19 years. They'd been here, and nothing had ever been done to their home. So I put in practice, let's go for a 10-year refresh program. Let's first fund it, which we did. Second, let it be a part of a team. Deshay helps with that as unit turnover manager. And 3, what's the list? We got this many to get caught up. We've been making progress on the catch-up. We've got maybe those that were here 2019, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, but we have to still get there all the way. And I can't tell you the exact, we're close today, but every year we're trying to catch up on a few. And again, we may have another one of you who've been in your home for 10 years, and I want to be able to have Andy come out and visit you and say, you're eligible for your 10-year refresh. We'll paint, we'll change flooring. What would you like done? If there's anything else to the home that's, you know, we're going to already, if there's a bad appliance or whatever, we're going to replace that. If there's a light fixture that's just, we're going to replace that. But, you know, that's the thought, because we're refreshing your home. Okay? Carol, I think you were next, and I'm going to keep going back from this.
I'd like to know if anybody else has this problem. My air conditioner, I keep it on 73 because in the areas we use the most, if I put it any lower than that, I'm gonna freeze. But then at 73, it gets hot in some of the other rooms, but that's probably a normal thing. However, when the temperature gets up to high 80s and into the 90s, in my hall bathroom, it starts smelling moldy. And so it's coming from that vent, because the vent gets condensation on it. Now, last year when that happened, I called maintenance, and they came out and they went in the attic and they looked at the conditioner, and they couldn't find anything that caused that problem. And I did mention it, I guess a couple of months ago at one of the town hall meetings to maintenance, and they said they'd check it out again, but nobody's ever come out to check it out again.
Yeah. So,
But it's only happens when it's high 80s and 90s and the air conditioner is running constant.
so
It's awful strong.
So everyone's hearing the issue and the air conditioning, and again, if the changing temperatures and all of a sudden we got condensation, and making sure that that doesn't turn into something different. What Andy and I have discussed, and we started with Mary Jane. Her home, we've actually identified and wanted to fix some things. We took care of it. And we're going to proceed through all of your cottages. And we want to do, there's several checks, okay? It starts with looking at the unit itself, and we're looking within it, and there's a couple of checklists that Andy's created for the men to look at, and we'll probably have one man do this. And he's just going to check first the unit. Then they're going to go up in the attic. And there is some ability of checking airflow, because in some of the vents, you can change an airflow. Some of you may recall in your own home, we have these little levers, even on upward ducts, that you can change. And they can look for the balancing. They're going to look at areas where there could have been condensation and making sure it's clean, making sure it's safe. Okay? So it's like there's 3 different points and areas that he's looking at. But it's a combination of the unit itself and the return vents. It's looking at upstairs and just checking what is it, making sure if there's an area where it's slipped and there's an opening on a duct and it's no longer insulated, then that's going to affect the condensation. So it may be that we just have to look at the insulation on that leg. Because if we insulate it, then the condensation, and it will be more efficient. So just over the next several months, and again, we'll get a timeline out for you, but Andy's now just working, who do we want to have do that? We want someone of competence, and we want them to follow very clearly this checklist. So just so you know, just anticipate that. Anticipate that you're going to get an appointment set, but after what we helped Mary Jane with, we're going to do it to all 39.
Yeah, well, I'm
Okay?
concerned about there being mold, because it's very strong when the air conditioner runs
Yeah.
constantly.
I had a
high temperatures.
similar thing in my house, and I end up, double checking on the vents. I had a couple that the insulation had fallen off, and then ended up adding in one area a return duct, and it helped balancing. And I think some of these homes, they're 20 years old, and
Where place I smell it
yeah,
really strong is that bathroom.
yeah.
And every once in a while I can get a whiff of it.
And I bet you if we get up there, and we may even replace a leg of that duct, and then make sure it's insulated. And by it being insulated, we then stop the condensation. It's now clean. It's new unit. So one by one, we're going to be checking all of your homes. And we haven't done this during my 7 years here. But when Mary Jane's issue arose, first response, I said, Andy, we got 38 more to check. So it's coming. Okay? Yes, Ms. Wilson. Go ahead.
Can I add a little footnote about that? It may be that we need some instructions about how long to leave the fan running or the bathroom door open to help with that. But I just want to give you a long-term theoretical challenge.
Mm-hmm.
People around the world think Americans are insane with our manicured lawns and the way we waste water in times of drought, and with people around the world, having water trucked in because there's no water in their village. I personally would be thrilled with a Ranger Rick wildflower garden of perennial native plants that after the grass was dug up and carried away would need no maintenance. So I don't expect it to happen tomorrow or this year.
Yeah.
But, we could think about
Yeah.
that. We put a lot of money, energy, manpower into all this manicuring and for what?
Yeah. So I think you heard her comment, and that is, is there any sense to putting in some ground cover, some wildflowers? Is there a way of, and the answer is yes. I'm not here to suggest we're going to abandon the irrigation system in full. And I am always caught with what Harry said. I have another new resident equally challenged about overspray onto his car. That's frustrating for us. But what I also know is between Buildings and Grounds Committee, between Resident Council, and in the planning for next year's budget, we're looking at a number of the areas around the campus that have become enlarged mulch beds. We got some areas that's like, we may have taken down a huge arborvitae and we put something small, but it's still a 30-foot mulch bed. You can walk around the buildings and all of a sudden I find an area that's 18 inches by 15 inches piece of grass. It's in a bed. It's like, gee, we're mowing that little thing. It's just we have a lot of illogical things that have happened because of the maturity and then transition. So what I'm now looking at is where are the areas that we can put in wildflowers or ground cover? And this has been an initiative, and don't even pay for the mulch. On the irrigation side, we're paying for the maintenance of it. We're shutting the system down, turn on every year, and we're paying for the cost of the well, the electricity. At least we're not paying for the water. But on the flip side, with that well, we're getting the sin of the rust. Okay? And of our wells, a number of them were redug. And Andy and I talked to this, and we're going to do this year. I want someone to come in and inspect the current health of our wells. What is the status? What is the actual depth of them? Is there any risk or any cost benefit of going deeper on them? That happened before. I don't know, I'm not a well scientist, so I don't know whether they get sediment, they fill up, is the water table changing? I have to believe it's going lower. So the ground cover is very viable, but we'll go from there, okay? But great point. All right, Bonnie, did you have your hand up?
Can we move on so we can get to this Gloucester Common?
You want to get into that?
I have just a mini subject.
Yeah.
Are you planning a new COVID-19 shot thing for
I've read this morning, our infection preventionist has an education class coming up on what will be the vaccinations available this year. Paula will make a note of it, and either we'll make sure, look for something on the in-house channel, if we can send out an in the loop. So it's going to let you know, here's what is going to be available this year, the decisions you can make between the different vaccinations. So not just, just COVID, but your flu and also what, RSV. So that education session will happen, and then we've already placed an order for X number.
Okay, so there will be a vaccination.
Education and vaccination, but for you to make your decisions, what do you want, et cetera, you can always talk to your physician. I know my wife Vera, she's already gotten a vaccination. She was at Costco, so she got her flu. And you have to also time it out right, because sometimes you want a little bit later to last longer. Okay, Dave?
Maybe you could, like you're doing with the voting, early voting, where you have a bingo, maybe you could do that with the vaccinations. Go to a Walgreens, Costco,
Yeah.
CVS, and take a group of people all at one time.
Okay, good idea. Okay, I'm going to see if Bonnie still has her question, and then I'll hit these quick slides. Okay, because I'm not surprised, an hour conversation goes pretty quick, doesn't it? All right, I'm going to come back to Bonnie's question, but let me just share with you. So I think when you look from above, we have a pretty campus. And so that's the full parameters. Down here is Harpersville Road, okay? So you can see the Smithfield cottages. This is now pretty clear now. Twice a year we're spending $5,000 for that to get cleared up because the city enforced us to. But that's sort of what it's like. And, I can come over and you can see there across, like from Carroll, where those big arborvitaes were, some of them then taken down and now trying to replace them. So you can sort of see some of the very large landscaping because this dates back a couple years. All right, so everyone's there. So let's dive into Gloucester Commons, and hopefully this is helpful. All right, this is what it looked like before when we had the walkway, the gazebo. So pretty much this is where we were, this sort of charcoal-like line. So that started it, and this was sort of what needed to happen when we took out that cement last winter and then starting to plant or put in the new. And so that was sort of gives you a beginning point. Then there was a point in time that in the master plan, I shared a drawing like this with you all that showed that, again, this is the street. Here's our patio homes. And then you go from the whites down around, gesture down here. And that was doing this and putting 2 pickleball courts there. We didn't even have the donation or the vision then of the water feature, meditation pond. Well, we did. We had it here, but we weren't sure exactly. So I take it back. We did know of that. And then we were going to put a pavilion here. And the pavilion could have shelter, could have like an event lawn, but it was going to go here. So that was sort of like an intermediate. Okay? Then we came to, after conducting and doing what we did this past year, where we've gotten this in, and I apologize that it didn't copy over well, but this is now, so again, patio homes around. Okay, so that's sort of like the U. Here's the street, but it's not putting anything in the middle, it's moving the pavilion to here. Yes, it's behind the patio homes. Letting this be more natural, putting this closer to people. And then this is illustrated right now because we've had a donation to put a pergola over the meditation pond. And that would just create a little bit of shade. So we're working with some design on that, but it'd just be more of a natural wood-looking structure, but it would provide some shade. And we'd then go ahead and L-shape the benches around that. So this is the meditation pond, okay? So come back to this. This is a footprint, and let me dive into this, but again, the trail's here, the cut-through's here, and this would go to the left of it or towards the buildings. So this is what it looks like. And you need to understand this design came from some of you in this room, a couple other residents, and we started meeting, I want to say last January, February. And Cindy, I think you were there and a couple others, and we met and tried to figure out where's Gloucester Commons, and we did trees and trying to understand what trees we'd put in and where. And then we got into, we know the meditational ponds are given. We had that donation. And then we started talking about what could this look like. And we started saying, well, the resident said, well, we need a restroom. Can't build it without a restroom. We need to have storage for games and maybe some tables and chairs when we have potlucks, or et cetera. And it'd be nice to grill out there. And it'd be really great if we could even sit out and have like a little fire pit. And then we looked at, well, could we put a structure up that could be a court that you could pull a net out and it could just be an open pavilion. But if there was interest in pickleball, let's tip our toes in the water and test this. Yes, it could be set up with a pickleball, and it will be courted, painted, and it could be used certain times of the day, certain days, whatever. But that's where we were. So that's this. So then we get into, well, what does this look like? So then we got into a local architect who's helped design this, and it's a metal structure that has brick and attractive exterior added to it. The actual roof is a standing seam metal roof. Attractive color to be picked out. Don't know exact color, but we can talk through that one because it's amongst us very quickly. But it's a building that can serve as a pavilion, but also can have underneath it a court. And you still have the other things that you're starting to see. So to give a different angle of it, this is just sort of going down to the other end. This would be where the patio homes are. Because there's a little bit of elevation change here, we're actually going to have the main entrance will be coming around near the barbecue pit. Right here, there will be a little side 3 steps, small retainer wall. Because if you go out there, you'll see there's just a little bit of pitch in that area, and it's the safest way to handle that. You have a clear and easy access entrance, but also if somebody wants to come to that end, they can. And then the final one, which sort of illustrates a different angle, you can see, the cupola is an attractive feature. This is where there'd be a counter area with a sink. So if you want to set up a potluck or something here, you can. Either 1 or 2 grills, high quality, natural gas. Fire pit, also natural gas. Chairs around it. And the main entrance would be right here. The cement walkway will come around and come into here, or you can access the other way, or you can walk across the grass on any of the sides. So what is it trying to do? It's trying to do a win-win. Rather than building 2 different footprints and taking up more of the green space, we're trying one step. The inside of that roof line, it doesn't have trusses. So it's actually strong rafters, so there's openness within. And there's actually 2 large fans, and I'm not going to tell you their name brand because I'd be cussing, but they're called a big fan, and that's what they're called. And they are these slow propellers that move, and they are in there, and they fit. And when we research the height of this, we know that from pickleball or whatever they're suggesting, from that thing having a 15-foot area, can somebody hit a ball and hit it? Sure you can, but for regular play, it's fine. And so we've checked that. At each end of this, there's going to be a control panel where you can turn lights on, you can turn the fans off and on, we can put them on motion sensor or timers, whatever, but there's also a switch that lowers a screen. And it's like, I just envision it sort of like a green tennis screen. Keeps the balls in play. And actually it has it on each end. When it's not used for pickleball, just get them up. It's just you see through the thing. It's a pavilion. Use it for picnics. Use it for concerts. But it does have screens.
What's the orientation of that? Which way is the street?
So the street would be on the top side of it. Okay?
So with the back?
So what we did was we turned the long axis that would stretch from the back of your home over to the Hogans. You follow? That's the long axis. So what you're looking through is the shorter side. Again, it was deliberate. Why not? You don't have to see the whole side. So I think that has some merit. So I'm sharing with you that we've been so blessed to get donations for this to be paid for. I think it's a process that we work with residents for most of this year to get to this plan. It's not investing in a pickleball court, period, alone. It's investing in something that's flexible. You can have potlucks out there. We can do concerts out there. We can have just evenings where you just go on and turn on the fireplace and you sit there. You can do cookouts. It can have cornhole on that court. We can have other games, axe throwing. There's different games that we're now playing. It does not have a bocce ball within. That's still another possibility, as do we also redo or add at some future date a putting green. Because this pretty much is sitting on top where the putting green is. Okay? So, disclaimer, get your tomatoes out. You can throw them at me. I've already talked to Bell and Ted. They know that there's a tree that they had donated that we would have to get spayed and guarantee that we get it placed. I respect their donation. It's a lovely tree, and that's a promise. The other one that I'm sorry that I can't save is the big magnolia. The big magnolia that sits out there will have to come down. And then we have to decide, is there something else that we replace? But it's literally, it would sit almost like right here. And you have to understand we can't move this far because I'm not sure if the previous drawings will show it, but this is the easement we can't build on. There's a utility easement. We can't push it over here. We have to keep it closer here because we can't build on that. The tree's sitting right in there. So this is pretty close to the pavilion. We're just not doing this now. We're just letting that be the meditation, and then in time, do we do other type of gardening? That was some of the ideas. But the easement and getting it closer to more people can benefit from it, coming from here, not just Gloucester, but everyone. But that's why it's positioned that way. So if you look at this is pretty close to the exact location. It's probably just shifted a little bit, but again, we had to avoid that easement. Okay?
What is the cost of this project?
$375,000, all donated funds.
All donated?
All donated funds. Miraculous. I can't tell you how, my whole, when we got the first gift of the meditational pond, it was a beautiful gift. And I was frustrated because I had to try to pull from Peter and Paul and whoever else to pay for that trail. And it was painful between city approvals and us getting the funding. And now with 2 wonderful gifts, it's done. So just incredible. Carol.
I had family come, a big family, and was gonna go use it. Who maintains that and keeps it clean? Do we have to clean the chairs and everything off when we go, or does maintenance come in and clean?
I would say residents do. I think we would have a reservation process, just like you could call, we could have a space here and it will be reserved if it's for individual parties, or let's say Smithfield wants to use it for a neighborhood thing, or Gloucester does, or maybe Assisted Living Activities wants to plan an event there. We'll have a booking for it, but the user is responsible for the cleanup. That's where I would start it. Now, will we still? Time's up. But on the flip side, it will be our responsibility to clean the bathrooms. So we're going to have to, and we're going to get feedback from you, and whether we start out checking on it once a day during season, maybe in the winter months we're not looking at it as often. There may be one of you having to call in and say, it looks like we need a restroom clean. We'll come out and do that.
Is there a limited time how long we can party there?
Yes, I think that's something that I think those are the opportunities we can work together on. What makes sense? Are there certain times that we do set up for pickleball, and the other times it's just for other uses? It's for cornhole, it's for other games. We'll set up, when's the concert schedule? When should the concerts be? Because if we don't want the concert to be a certain time, or we have some people who are really good dancers, how long do we allow them to dance for?